I never had Instagram or social media at all, other than anything to produce content and make a business out of it.
What about how to steal chips without being caught? 87-year-old grandmother names Pokemon characters, and what was the third one?
Rip a yellow book in half.
How to rip a phone book in half without like. What do you think about that type of content?
Stop.
Talk me through.
All right, here's what he's talking about. I have.
So I do want to know how to get chips without being caught.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And I'd like to scare a grandmother.
Thank you.
They're very cocky, aren't they?
They always are.
I've made you
They
some
always are.
muffins. Fuck you.
I have this thing, my friends call it, where I'll just watch
Shit content.
Shit content. They've coined shit content, and truthfully, man, I'll be stuck on a love sack for 30 minutes just watching just absolute rubbish, just shit. And he caught me one time watching, what was it? 97-year-old grandmother names Pokemon, how to steal chips without getting caught.
His biggest thing quickly is do you know the Ruth
Goldberg machine?
Goldberg machines. It's basically a marble. You know this. A marble drops down a straw hits a domino. A domino's knocking egg. Of course you do.
Everyone loves that.
Of course. How much Ruth Goldberg machines have you consumed in the past year?
None.
But hold on, let me justify. I do this because I'm a student. I'm a student of the game.
Please no.
I'm a student of the game. I swear to God, everything that I do, whether consciously or subconsciously, everything that I consume inspires me. Example, based on what he just said, the grandmother naming Pokemon. We posted a TikTok the other day
and it went great.
of
People
you
loved it.
naming Pokemon.
Yeah, that's great.
Guess where I got the idea from? The grandmother naming. Like, I never know when anything I see or hear is gonna infiltrate its way into my content. And so, yeah, I'm constantly on my phone, and also I grew up with it. Like, I grew up in a different. It's all I know, and I can put it down. No problem. You just saw me do it. I can check it out.
Here's a question. I want Russell's feedback on this, but what if the content that he consumes, if from a different spectrum, still has as much of an effect from an inspiration standpoint, but it inspires him in a different way?
That's a really brilliant point.
Okay,
Mike.
so as opposed to him consuming content that makes him produce another spin-off of 87-year-old grandmother names Pokemon characters.
With you as the grandmother.
With me as the grandmother, which, by the way, I'm pretty close. He consumes content about what's hot in culture and clothing right now, and it drives higher business sales on the Maverick side, or who's doing the best drop shipping, and he becomes the best drop shipper he could be. Like,
Before you answer this,
root it in why, I guess is what I'm saying.
Super ideal. That'd be awesome, but also unrealistic. When you want to shut off and think about nothing, and what your version of the Rube Goldberg machine, and marbles rolling down, and you just want to turn your brain off at whatever time it is. Maybe you don't turn. Maybe you're like a Kevin Hart, Dwayne Johnson, and you're always on. But maybe you're not. Do you have something that you do that you can just shut down? Is it meditation?
Yes, it is meditation, because otherwise I'll do things like you do. You know, I'll play like an English football management game and just lose myself in fake transfers hour after hour. I love doing that kind of numbing stuff. I'm a smackhead. Like, it's nice to numb. But like Mike was saying there about that if you and you said yourself that everything you consume influences your creativity. Now, you must think of that as a kind of power, and as Mike said, wherever you put your intention and attention, that's going to be expressed in your work. So the same as you were saying, mate, that, you know, when you wake up with a hangover, that's a day where you're not improving and making yourself better. I suppose it's not that you need to be so kind of assiduous and diligent that you never get a moment's peace to yourself, but when you're looking at that stuff, you'll think, why am I looking at this? What is this? What am I really going to get from this? Because you are because of your own endeavor and, you know, some good fortune, because all of us get good fortune along the way, the time we've been born, the place we've been born, the things that we were given naturally, our work ethic. You didn't give yourself this ability, you didn't give yourself that face, that voice, this language. So, like, you know, there's a lot of things there that you can use to create so much beauty, so much inspiration, so much comfort. And I feel that that's the direction you're naturally going in. I mean, like, Jesus, we've got to be kind to ourselves. Nothing wrong with watching a marble and a straw create some sort of, what are they called again? Dorothy Porridge's sex machine.
Dorothy Porridge's
sex machine.
Nothing wrong with that.
Do you
Those exist too, by the way. Have you ever seen those automated sex machines that just kind of go like this?
Yeah.
Me neither. I've never seen that. I don't even know if they really exist.
Revolting. And also that would be an unsatisfying movement for everyone involved, I think.
That's a fact.
Where's the sway?
No, that's the end goal of it. It's a machine. The machine turns on a wheel, and in the end, it
But even
drives it.
that's too blunt.
Hey, you said we're all just little monkeys.
I think, but
I'd like a machine that the result is.
Here's the thing. He can build that for you. He's got expertise in that department.
engineer dog.
He's an engineer dog.
I think there's so
Oh,
much
you're an
power.
engineer.
I think there's so much power in what you said, though, just because, like, from a standpoint of where people find their sense of self, a lot of it is in doing, I find, and like, especially like the hustle mentality and like always trying to like go out and do things to like find a sense of, okay, I'm somebody. And I think we're called human beings for a reason, you know, because you don't call a tiger being a dolphin being. They're animals, and we've been given the title of human being. And I feel like that if we can find that sense of happiness and self and peace just by being, and so many of man's problems and suffering comes from not being able to be in a room alone quietly.
Yeah, we all
By
need to
himself.
get, you're right. We need to be able to
Absolutely.
get into flow states without needing Dorothy Porridge's sex machine to numb our asses out or whippets or whatnot.
Do you blame potentially any kind of slow and technological improvement that we may be experiencing, or any, you know, you talked about these monkey communities and we really haven't gotten far from there. I've seen stories about the death of boredom being a massive contributor to the lack of advancement in society and content in whatever case, because people that thought of those great ideas because they had nothing else to do. They were sitting there with themselves, thinking, breathing, being, as opposed to Dorothy Porridge sex machine, grandma names Pokemon. Like, we are surrounded and inundated by a pile of flaming dog shit right now. Like, let's be honest, the internet is a shithole. It is a disaster of bullshit. And unless you are a skilled navigator, which maybe you are, or the Spencer Vibes who follow 0 people on Instagram, because it's not hard to see something you don't want to see when you follow no one. Unless you're a skilled navigator of that shit pile, you're going to be inundated by shit, and you're gonna be inspired by shit.
Why don't we apply, Mike, the system that we already discussed that you and I have successfully deployed around our addiction to chemicals to this phone use? Now, how that would work is you would obviously set yourself some targets. You would say that, all right, when I get up, I do whatever it is I do. I don't just delve straight into the phone, and then I'm not allowed to numb out. I'm allowed to look at that screen for 1 hour or 2 hours a day when it's related to work. You know, like that's the equivalent. Having a program, having a plan that was suggested to you by someone else is the way of changing that behavior. Rather, at the moment, we've just got our own plan. I'll look at it when I feel like it. I'll do what I want to do. Obviously, in your line of work, in your world, in your generation, it's going to be something that you interact with, but it's unconsciously interacting with. It's problematic. You don't need me to tell you that the people that invented that shit don't let their kids look at it, that they themselves have all sorts of restriction around it because they used it knowing what they know about addiction, knowing what they know about people like us that just can't stop once we start. And all of us have these inbuilt tendencies to one degree or another. So we have to make a conscious decision to say, right, I'm going to do this for this amount of time. And then if you don't do that, it's not like you have to go and shoot yourself in the garage, but you sort of have to go, oh, wow, I wasn't capable of doing that. That's interesting. That's addiction.
You're skipping a step though.
Go on.
Where that statement works on me. And by the way, I know exactly what you're talking about with these people who built Facebook, built YouTube. They built it with this endless scroll that's just going to keep scrolling. The videos on YouTube autoplay, so your videos never stop. You don't even have to scroll anymore. They'll do it for you. It was built like that. The step we're skipping with Logan is, unlike me, I don't think he's at step 1. He's not, he has no problem with it. Yeah. And so like, until he says, okay, like, and by the way, I've admitted it, but I'm even worse. In a lot of ways, I'm worse than him. I think my screen time might even be higher than his. So I am, at the end of the day, I'm preaching to the choir, but like, it's a good point. All the people that built these applications have their kids off of them. They're not on them.
To our earlier point, unless there's a problem, there's not a problem.
I
Like
guess,
Logan, you're a young man, you're successful. Like, be guided by whatever it is in you that's taken you this far. Trust it to a degree. You don't need to put yourself in some self-imposed penury. You're doing well. But if ever you find yourself reflecting, I want to change, I want to do things differently, then start to look at this method, this system, recall this conversation, reach out, But like like Mike's saying, if there ain't a problem, no problem.